Welcome to 1 in 20 D&D.
Hi, I'm Gregory and welcome to 1 in 20 D&D. Today I'm going to talk with you and share an idea about easy encounter creation. Now, let's take something that can seem overwhelming and break it down into small, easy to manage chunks. That way we can develop a big idea and something that will be powerful for both us and our friends. Now, of course, I love talking about D&D because I love playing D&D. However, this thought, this theory, and this easy encounter creation will pretty much work for just about any role-playing game you're going to play. So, the first thing you want to do is recognize that a good game, whether it's an evening one-shot or whether it's a big campaign, is made up of encounters. Some of these encounters are going to be combat encounters. Woohoo! I love combat encounters. They are lots of fun. Other encounters might be tricks, traps, or puzzles. They might be obstacles. They might also be role-playing encounters, which I also love. So, whether you're taking one of these, let's break it down into steps, right? How do we make an encounter that we can then put into our adventure or our campaign or both? Start by picking one of these ideas, either a location, an event, or a monster. By monster, I'm also including villains or protagonists. Now, I'm going to break each of these three down a little bit so that you guys can understand what I'm talking about before we move on to the next step. So, what am I talking about when I say a location? Maybe you have an idea like, wow, I'd love to have a fight in a swamp. Or, oh, these guys have to have a ballroom dance. Maybe you want your characters to get involved in a city chase through the streets of some bustling city. Something like this. Maybe it's an epic temple on the peak of the highest mountain in the region, and they're going to seek wisdom or find some treasure. So pick a location that excites you. That sometimes can be a great starting place, and that's what we're looking for first. So if you don't like the location, maybe it's the event that stirs your imagination. Maybe there's some great cataclysmic moment, or maybe somebody steals something. Perhaps the crown jewels have been stolen. Here's an event that you can take and present to the players, and what are they going to do about it? Then, let's also consider the third option, which is a monster. So maybe your starting point is a monster that I have been dying to get a Hydra into this game. Oh my gosh, what if these guys found out they had to fight a beholder? Or at lower levels, maybe it's something simple like a bugbear captain that is going to be one heck of a fight. Whatever it is, maybe you have some monster in mind that might be a great starting point for an adventure. Now, with monsters, I'm also going to include villains, protagonists, and you can even have traps or obstacles. These would all be something I think that gets in the way. That's kind of how I'm thinking of monster when I say that term very loosely. So it could be a monster, an actual monster, could be a villain, someone they have to deal with either one time and that's it, or something that is going to be a recurring person. They're very strong right now. Maybe this is just the introduction, or maybe it's the culmination of what they've been working towards. So that's great. Now it could also be a protagonist, someone who's going to help them out. Okay, so that was the three starting points, and I made it very broad to give you some ideas. Let me make it simple one more time. You pick either a location that you really think would be fun, an event that's meaningful somehow, or a monster. Again, that bracketed monster, villain, etc. Okay? One of those three ideas. Whichever one really catches you as a spark of inspiration, go with that. Then you break down each one of those. If you pick a location, what makes it interesting or important? Okay? What makes it interesting or important? So this is step 2. Delving a little deeper into the encounter to what you're setting up, what you're creating. And this is all in the brainstorming part of this. So if it's a location, what makes it interesting or important? Okay, that's one. Now, if it's an event, you want to think about what happened there or then, what is happening even, And why does the party care? Why would they care? Maybe they're just motivated by money. Maybe it's an altruistic, like, we have to save the people. Whatever it is, that's fine. Just have an idea in mind of why would the party care? Because if you're using this is your hook. See, this is your hook that I'm describing now. So step 1 is the starting point. Step 2 is your hook. Why is the party gonna get involved? Maybe they're gonna be forced into it. It's a chamber in the dungeon or something like that. But you wanna have a hook to make it a good, exciting encounter. So that's for location and event. If it's a monster or a villain or something like this, a trick, trap, whatever. Okay, so you want to think about, are they a threat? And if so, to who, or to whom, if you prefer. And also, what do they want? So, if it's a monster, they want food, the party is food. Simple, easy, right? Why is it a threat? Yes. Hell yes, it's a threat. Okay, if it's a villain, they might not seem to be a threat at first. Maybe they come off as suave and debonair and charming. Or maybe they come off as timid and, please, I need help. But they're luring the party into a trap. These are great hooks. Now, you don't have to tell them everything. Of course you're not going to tell them everything. The party needs to have a little bit of mystery involved. But these are in your mind for your brainstorm. Number 1, what's the start? Number 2, what's the hook? Okay? Now, once you've figured out your starting place and your hook, what's next? Well, that's quite simple. Once you've figured out your start and your hook, now you need to tie in the other 2 elements. So you have these 3 basic elements to any encounter. You have a location. Where is it happening? You have an event. Maybe the event is simply the party stumbled across a monster. And you have your antagonist or possibly protagonist. Who's involved? Who or what, if it's a trick or a trap or a puzzle, okay? So, you have 1, fill in the other 2. So, if you have your location, think about how did the party get into the situation and who's there when they get there. If you have the monster or the villain, then you figure out, well, where does the party meet them and what is going to lead this meeting to happen? What's going to create this encounter, right? What's going to create the encounter? So, those are your starting places, your hooks, and once you've got your first idea, you fill in the other 2. So now you have an idea of what this encounter is. Obviously, you're going to, start populating your encounter with the actual monster and the stat blocks for the monster, and maybe you make a map for the location, or if you do it in theater of the mind, this next point, this next step is really, really helpful and critical. So the third step, to me, let me say this differently. First step is your starting point. Second step is your hook. Third step is filling it out to add the other 2 elements that I mentioned. And the fourth step now should be describe in detail the focus of the encounter, okay? So you're gonna paint a picture with words. This is the idea. So if your key element is a location, a grove in the forest, an ancient crypt, whatever it may be, the throne room in a castle. Describe that primary element with great detail. Use the best words you can find, and I suggest writing it down. At least write some notes for yourself down. Is it well lit? What are the colors that they might see? Are there things of import in that location, okay? If you're doing a monster or a villain, do the same thing. Describe its needle-like teeth, or its ginormous nose, or its big fat belly, or whatever it is. The more you can get yourself invested in describing this creature, this location, this event, the more you'll draw your players in, okay? So, that's number 4. Number 4 is describe it in detail. Describe the key figure, the key element in detail, and be descriptive. Paint a picture with your words. The best you can. Just do the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect or flawless. Just do the best you can. That's all that matters when you're making an easy encounter, right? Now, the last thing you want to do is, and this is almost part of step 4, but the last thing you want to do is highlight other important elements, other important information or features. You walk into a room. You walk into a dining room. There's a gentleman at one side of the table leaning back, seems bored out of his mind. There's a woman across the table, looks incredibly nervous. She's not saying a word and she's sitting very stiffly. There are 2 guards in the corners, and there are 2 children who are absolutely silent and barely moving. And they keep looking from the woman to the man, from the woman to the man. See, I just described a scene off the top of my head, but that kind of impact that's going to have on your characters and your party, your group, your friends, hopefully, is going to be awesome when you set this stage for this encounter. So think about that beforehand so that at the table or over the internet, like I usually do, when you're actually engaging the party, you're all ready to go and you can get as excited about it as hopefully they will as well. Okay, so I added a lot of information. Hopefully it's really good information. And again, the title of this is, the easy encounter creation. And I want to make it as easy as possible. So take these simple 4.5 steps, write stuff down, take notes for yourself so you have it. And this is how you want to go through it. First, pick your starting point. Whether it comes to you as an inspiration or whether you just say, I'm going to use this. Perfect. Starting position. Then, step 2, answer the question. What makes it interesting or important? What happened and why would the party care? Are they a threat, and if so, to who? And ultimately, what do they want? Alright, so you got the location, the event, and let's call it the thing. Whether it's a monster, a protagonist, an antagonist, or so on, your enemy, your friend, who is it? What is it? A puzzle, a trap, etc. Okay? So, the thing. Location, event, the thing. Starting place, description. Figured out what's important about it. Why is it important to the party and to your story that you're building together? That's step 2. Step 3, fill in the other 2, and then answer the same questions. Now you've flushed out the encounter. Now, step 4 is describe the encounter. Use creative words, of course, descriptive. Be as descriptive as you can. Focus on the key. What started this whole encounter that you're creating. Focus on that. And then, use your words to paint the picture. As well as, after you've done that, add a few highlights of what else is important to the party. If you've done that, if you've done step 1, you picked up a starting place, you've done step 2, you've filled in and answered why is this important, what does it mean, what are they going to do about it. If you've answered step 3, you've flushed out the other elements to make an entire encounter, and then you've done step 4, introduced what they are going to see at the beginning of this encounter with descriptive words and painting a picture with words, then my friends, you have just created an encounter. Congratulations, get out there and do it, enjoy it, have fun with your friends, have fun and laugh all the time. I hope to see you at a table someday so I can enjoy one of your encounters. And in the meantime, keep rolling 20s.